Hello everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. So today I'm doing an assembly tutorial on the 3D butterfly explosion box using the die set designed by Nicole Silhouette here on YouTube. Here are a few pictures of what the explosion box looks like when it's completed. This is the box closed, and here it is open. So let's get started. Here are the pieces of the die set laid out so that you can see. And we've got the main piece to make the box, plus the base, the lid and the lid top. Decorator panels. That butterfly one goes there, and there's this frame and vase. So I just would like to talk to you a bit about these two squares. They do look like they could be the same size, but they're actually not. One is a little bit bigger, just by about 1 millimeter, if that. And the reason for that is that will be for the lid of the box, because lids on boxes need to be a little bit bigger to fit over the base of the box. So those two pieces there make the lid. And this smaller square goes with this piece to make the base of the explosion box. So when you get your die set, take a little bit of time when you're separating the dies to make sure that the smaller square goes with the box and the larger square goes with the lid. So moving on here, and I've cut my butterfly square piece out 4 times to make the 4 sides of the box, and the 1 square to make the base. And I've gone ahead and folded along the score lines and put double-sided tape where the adhesive goes on the tabs. Okay, so we're going to start putting this together, and I'm working with the cardstock the right side facing the camera. So we're working and looking at the outside of the box as we're putting this together. I found it was just a little bit easier to do it that way because I could line the score lines up with the edges a little bit better. So I'm taking my time here, making sure these are lined up properly and are straight, as you don't want to have problems with the box opening and closing when it's finished. Just getting that last one in place. Okay, so we've got all the 4 sides attached to the base of the box, and now we need to attach those smaller wing parts to the sides. And I'm doing that to the inside of the box, attaching those tabs to the inside. But I'm also checking how it's going to look from the outside, so there isn't any funny overhang pieces, if you get what I mean. So just taking care to check to make sure it's lined up and in the correct position, and it is easier to do this with the box opened out flat. So I'm just sticking the last piece down, and then we're going to fold the box in to its box shape, so the paper gets a bit trained for what it has to do. So that's the assembly of the actual box pretty much done. We'll move on to the lid. So we need the bigger square and the scalloped edge piece. So I cut 2 squares and I've cut 4 scalloped edge pieces and gone ahead and folded along the score lines and put double-sided tape for the adhesive on the tabs. So as before, we're working with the right side of the paper facing up, looking at the outside of the lid. It's just easier to line up the edges. And when you're working with the paper the right side up and working on the outside of the box as such, you can get an idea of how it's going to be looking when it's finished. So I've got the last piece here, and I'm going to put that into place, taking my time, making sure it's lined up correctly. And I'm going to remove the release paper from those tabs, the smaller ones, and I'm going to put them into place. And this gives the lid its shape. So just take your time and put those tabs into place to give your lid the box shape. And when you take your time and make sure things are in place correctly, you'll know then that your lid will fit on your box. So I'm going to test it now to make sure everything fits well. And the lid fits very well. Now that's pretty much the assembly of the lid and the box done. Moving on to the decorating. So that piece there that I just showed you was the decorator panel piece for the side pieces of the lid. And I went ahead and embossed my pieces using this Cuttlebug embossing folder, which I believe is called Swiss Dots. And I'm going to put those panel pieces into place on the sides of the lid. You'll notice on my assembly tutorials that I do use a mix of glue and double-sided tape. The double-sided tape is good for smaller areas and the glue obviously better for bigger areas. Using glue also gives you that wriggle room to be able to maneuver your pieces into place correctly. And I'm competing with the local birds today with my voiceover. They seem to be in a huge population outside my craft room today. So I'm just gluing my decorator panels into place. And I'm going to bring in now that other square that I cut for the lid, and I'm going to put that on the inside. And what that does is it covers those tabs, giving it a nice finished look, and also gives that lid of the box a little bit of extra strength. I also went ahead and cut another one, and I trimmed it down so that it became a decorator panel, and I put it through that embossing folder so that it would match with the side pieces. And I'm liking how my lid is coming together. So the decorator panels for the lid are now done. Moving on to the explosion box. And I've opened it out, and this is the outside of the box. I went ahead and I cut some panels using the smallest square, and I embossed all those panels with that embossing folder. I've got 4 for the outside, and there'll be 4 going in on the inside. These pieces also have been trimmed down a little bit so that they have a nice border around. And I'm gluing them into place on the outside of the explosion box. So I'm just gluing this last decorator panel in place on the outside of the explosion box. Turn it over, it's time to work on the inside. On the inside of the box, on that middle panel, I'm just sticking a piece of plain purple cardstock. And now I'm going to glue down those other decorator panels onto those side pieces of the box on the inside, and they match the ones that are on the outside. They were pieces cut using that smaller square and trimmed down a little bit so that they had a nice border edge around. Now this die here creates a frame, and I've gone ahead and cut 4 of those in that contrasting purple colour, and I'm going to glue those in place onto the side pieces of the explosion box. Purple's one of my favourite colours, and I like purple in most shades, which is why I chose it for this project. I have to take a bit more care here pushing down, because I'm pushing down onto cardstock that's been embossed. So it just takes that little bit of extra time of pushing it down so it gets a good grab. Okay, moving on, whilst I'm waiting for those pieces to dry, I've got another couple of dies here from Designed by Nicole, a large circle and a smaller one, and I decided to cut the smaller one and use it as a doily in the centre of my explosion box, and I cut it from white. So I'm just gluing that down into place. And that's why I did not emboss with the Swiss Dots folder that piece in the middle, that purple piece. So included in the die set is the layering piece for the butterfly, and to begin with I just glue the centre of the butterfly down because I had plans that the butterfly was going to have that fluttering wings effect. But it didn't quite work, and I'll talk to you a bit more about that later. So I get those stuck down. And it's a great idea in hindsight, but it didn't work. So included also in the die set is this vase, and you need to cut this, I personally think, 8 times. And then you fold them in half and glue those halves together to create a 3-dimensional vase. So I'm just taking my time, making sure that the pieces stay lined up together, because that will affect the way the vase shape ends up. Whilst I'm gluing together the pieces of this vase, I thought I would mention that you don't actually have to use this vase in the centre of your explosion box if you don't want to. You could leave it out altogether and have nothing in the centre of your explosion box, or you could put a gift inside, and that would be great. You could lift the lid, the sides would pop down, and there would be the gift. And that would be a very different gift box option. So I've got my 8 vase pieces here glued together. I'm just making sure it's going to fill out nicely, and then I'm going to glue it together. And whilst I'm waiting for that glue to grab, I'm manoeuvring the pieces around to make sure that I'm happy with how full it's going to be looking, and I'm pretty happy with that. And that's going to sit in the middle like that. Now, this is where I find out that the fluttering butterflies isn't going to work. So I fluff them up, getting them ready because I think it looks really nice like that. And I go to push the pieces up, and this is where I see that the antennas are going to get stuck together, and every time you open and close the box it's going to be an issue. So I go ahead and I glue down the wings. And I'm a little bit devastated by that, because I really think that would be a really nice effect inside the box, but you don't want to create catch points with explosion boxes because it is only paper and it can get damaged quite easily. So there I am gluing down the butterflies. So I went ahead and I've put in the vase, and I glued some flowers onto the top so that it looked like the flowers were in the vase. And you want to be careful you don't overload it too much with flowers, as you can see there with the butterflies coming in. You don't want to obstruct them either. So I'm just testing to make sure everything fits well now that I've got decorator panels on all sides of the box. The lid is fitting well, even though it looks like I'm having a struggle there. I'm not really. It's only because of the angle that I'm on trying to film and show you, and it fits on quite nicely. So I've gone ahead here and I have completed the decorating of my explosion box, and you can see I've put rhinestones around the edge of the outside, and I've put a bow on the top, a double bow, and I've put one of those butterflies on the centre of the bow. Inside I've gone ahead and put Just For You on all of the panels, and put some rhinestones on the butterflies as well as around the base of the vase. I'm super happy with how this came out. I don't know yet who I'm going to give this to. Maybe I'll just keep it for myself. I do find it hard sometimes to part with the stuff that I make. So it all folds up nicely and the lid fits on well. I do encourage you to give this project a try. It is very easy and straightforward to put together. Don't forget to check the description box down below for the links to the products that I've used. And if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really love that too. Thanks very much for watching today. Have a great day, and until next time, bye for now.